Hello, Econ Scholars. I'm obviously not in class this hour, but that doesn't mean we're going to stop learning. So, we are going to jump on the train of learning about broad social goals now. Those are things that there are 5 different broad social goals. They're broad goals that all economies try to achieve. And some economies try to do things differently than others, and some more focus on some of these 5 broad social goals more than others. So we're going to break down what those are. I'm going to give you a minute here to go ahead, and if you go into Google Classroom, you can see that the PowerPoint is there for you, as well as the blank notes sheet. Why don't you open up the blank notes sheet? I'll give you a minute here to do that. Again, this is not due, it's not an assignment, but as you've all experienced now, in case there's an open note, open homework quiz, it's nice to have those notes done. It makes that very, very, very easy. Plus, there's a bunch of stuff on the test that'll be coming up in a week or so that deals with the 5 broad social goals. So we're going to want to be able to go back and look at these notes as you're studying for that and filling out the study guide for that test. So I'm going to go ahead and put it up on my screen here. Well, the notes should look like this, by the way. And just kind of fill in the blank notes as we go through. All right, so here are those 5 broad social goals. What do we value as a society, and how are we doing? So we're going to kind of look at these and think about, like, we're gonna analyze it at some point, like, how are we doing with these 5 broad social goals? So the first goal, economic freedom. How much freedom do people have within an economy to choose what they want to do economically? When you have money, are you going to spend it or are you going to save it? Are workers allowed to change jobs or join labor unions, which are like groups of certain specific types of workers that kind of work together to negotiate how much pay they get? Or are you just going to remain in the present status? Are you going to start a new business, close old ones? Or do you want to do what they want to? So again, with some governments and some of the stuff that we study in civics, like, you can probably figure out some economies, they don't give much economic freedom. Like, they tell people, here's how much money you're going to make. They tell companies, here's what you're going to produce, how much are you going to get. They tell people what jobs you get. Like, that's where they're like, is zero economic freedom. If we've got a lot of economic freedom, we individually get to choose those things. Then second, there's economic efficiency. So costs and benefits of using resources. We've talked about all those natural resources that are needed to produce goods and services. How well are we using those resources? Are we just wasting them? Or are we very specific as to how we're using them so we're not wasting them? How efficient are we being? So the second bullet point there is the best use of scarce petroleum or oil resources, people driving their boats or snowmobiles on the weekends. Like, is that the best way that we use that resource? Or should scarce and expensive medical treatment being spent on motorcyclers or motorcycle riders who are injured while not wearing a helmet? Like, is that the best use of that resource, of that medical equipment? Those people are out riding around without a helmet. Are we going to use some of those medical resources, which are expensive, on those people? Are we going to have a lot of government regulation, or is it going to be laissez-faire? Government regulation. So is the government going to have a lot of rules and stuff like that as to how we use our resources, or are they going to be laissez-faire? That's a French term that means like hands off, laissez-faire. We're just going to let businesses operate as they want to and individuals operate as they want to without a whole lot of restrictions and rules. Then the third one, economic equity. Battle over fair or equal. Fair or equal. So there's a difference between those two terms. Like, is an economy going to make it fair for everybody, where everybody has an equal opportunity, those individuals then have to decide what they want to do with that opportunity. Or is the government just going to make it equal for everybody? Like everybody gets a job, everybody gets this amount of money, everybody has a place to live, everybody has healthcare, everybody has free education. That's equal. Fair, again, is, hey, here's this stuff out there. The opportunities are out here for you to start your own business, or for you to go out and find your own job, or for you to get the type of education that you want. Now, it's on those individuals then to go out and take advantage of those opportunities if they want to. The second bullet point there, economic actions and policies have to be evaluated in terms of what people think is right or wrong. So again, from place to place, from economy to economy, from country to country, some countries and economies might think this is right and this is wrong. Others might think the opposite in terms of economic equity. Distribution of income and wealth. Again, that goes back to how are we going to distribute our income and wealth? Some governments that we've learned about in economies, they distribute it equally for everybody. Everybody gets equal or more equal. Others, not so much. The opportunities are out there, but not everybody gets equal. Hey, there are many countries around the world like us that everybody does get free healthcare. Everybody gets equal healthcare, equal education, because it's all free. United States, we're not so much like that. Not everybody gets that. It's out there for us. We have the opportunity to go get those things, but not everybody gets the equal. And then the last bullet point. For example, some people might think that a particular tax is fair while others think it is unfair. Okay, we've got different people that think differently about those issues. Then we've got economic security. So protection against economic risks, work injuries, unemployment, inflation, business failures, and poverty. We have a lot of those things in the United States. It's called like workers' comp. If you get injured at work, my lights went out. There we go. If you get injured at work with a work-related injury, and maybe you can't then go to work for a little bit of time while you heal up, there are rules and laws in the United States that tell your employer you still have to pay that employee, and you can't just give their job to somebody else while they're getting healthy again. So there is some economic security there for us in the United States. Unemployment. If you get laid off from your job in the United States, not fired for doing something stupid, but if you get laid off or you're let go of your job because maybe the company is going bankrupt or they've got to downsize, you can apply for unemployment through our government, which again, the government will pay you for a period of time, not maybe the wages you were making, but a percentage of the wages you were making, just so you still have some income coming in so that you can survive until you find another job. Again, they don't let you do that forever, and there's a limited amount of time that they give you to find another job. Inflation. Our government has things put in place, and we're going to talk about that a lot later on this semester, to try to keep inflation low so we don't have to pay more and more and more for products and services if our paychecks aren't going up as much. Business failures. Sometimes there are things put into law that if they help out with trying to create your own business, and then if it does fail, maybe there's support there for you. And then with poverty, we've got programs like that help provide childcare for people that might not be able to afford it, or lesser expensive housing. So some housing assistance or food welfare programs, food stamps and things like that for, again, people that maybe are in a little tougher economic spot in terms of how much money they have, so that they can at least survive and have the needs to survive in our country. We've got individual savings and insurance that we can purchase. We're going to get a lot more into insurance later on this year, as well as savings. Like, we've got things we can do so that in case we do fall into some economic tough times, or we get into a car crash, or our house burns down, or whatever, we don't have to pay all that money like out of pocket. If my house burns down, I don't have a couple $100,000. Not that my house is worth a couple $100,000, but I don't have that much money to rebuild a house. Now, because we have insurance programs, I have homeowners insurance. So yeah, I pay a little bit for that every year, but in the case that there's a bad storm, that tree falls on my garage and we got to get that rebuilt, or again, there's a house fire and my house burns down. Like, there's insurance there for me. I don't have to cover that stuff out of pocket. Same thing with car insurance. If I get in a car accident, I don't have, or most people don't have, thousands of dollars sitting around to fix their car. So we have insurance programs. They get in a car accident. Yeah, I might have to pay a little bit of money, but up to only a small amount before then my insurance company comes in and takes over and pays the rest. And here are some more government programs. Like, we've got Social Security that helps out with some of this stuff. Medicare and Medicaid are two government-run healthcare programs. We've got economic growth then as another broad social goal. So the goal of every economy, for the most part, is obviously to grow. They want to get bigger. That means that their businesses are doing well, they're producing more stuff. So increasing the production of goods and services over a set amount of time is definitely a broad social goal. It's a goal of most economies. And that's measured by the GDP, what we call the gross domestic product. Every year, pretty much every year, countries around the world, they have a formula to add up how much stuff did they produce, or what was the cost of all the stuff that they produced, and that's your GDP. We're like in the trillions. We're the number one ranked economy in the world. You can oftentimes tell a country's like level of living or wellness of living by a country's GDP. Like, if a country has a very low GDP, maybe in just a couple $1 billion, we can figure that to provide for that many people good stuff like education, healthcare, housing, transportation, that country's probably not got that stuff at a very high level. Now, again, you look at ours, we've got a couple $1 trillion GDP every year. You can probably figure out that, yeah, there's good healthcare in the United States, there's good education, there's good transportation, our infrastructure is in a good spot. Okay, so let's take those 5 broad social goals and kind of put them to use just a touch. All right, we can't read the top, but that's okay. Producers of sports shoes, jeans, and other products to offer consumers a wide variety of styles and different price ranges. The consumers are free to choose from many competing goods and services. So let's look at what broad social goals might be aided or added to here, and then which ones might be hindered. When we've got competition, we've got a lot of different options in terms of buying sports shoes, jeans, and stuff like that. So a broad social goal that's aided might be freedom. Like, we've got more freedom to choose the stuff that we want to buy. We're not just told you can only buy Nike shoes. There are tons of different shoe brands out there for us. So we've got more economic freedom in this situation. Why? Again, there are more brand options to choose from, and prices will probably be lower, right? If we only could buy from Nike, they could jack their prices up as high as they wanted because they knew we had to purchase from them. They've got to now compete. Well, if we don't like Nike's prices, we can go buy some Reeboks that might be $10 less expensive. And hopefully brands that are competing with each other keep lowering their prices for us as the consumer. Okay, what might be hindered? Efficiency. Well, we've got all these different types of shoes and jeans out there. We might not be using our natural resources very well when we're just out producing millions of different types of shoes or millions of different types of jeans. Do we really need to have that many different types out there? Can't we just have one type, save the resources, and use them for something else? So our efficiency could be hindered a little bit in this scenario. Okay, situation number 2, motorcycle. Basically, people using motorcycles, they're required to wear helmets, which may help reduce medical costs and may prevent taxpayers and consumers who have auto and health insurance from having to pay to support uninsured motorcycle riders who suffer serious injuries. Okay, what broad social goal could be helped or added to here? Well, security and efficiency. One, with the insurance stuff, We want to have that economic security by forcing people to have insurance and efficiency. Again, we're not wasting money then on people that don't have the insurance. Laws guard against unnecessary medical expenses in some accidents. So the cost of a helmet is minimal compared to health care costs. Healthcare, you get an accident like that, you got to go to the hospital. It's going to be thousands and thousands of dollars. Okay, a motorcycle helmet, I don't know what motorcycle helmets cost, but I'm assuming it's not $10,000 for a motorcycle helmet. Okay, and what might be hurt? Well, economic freedom. Remember, economic freedom is allowing people to choose what they want to do with their money, basically. Well, here we're telling motorcycle riders, you must buy a helmet. Like, there's no freedom there. There's a rule, there's a law that says you have to do that. In fact, the state of Michigan just a few years ago went away from that law. We used to have that law where you had to, like, if you were going to ride a motorcycle in the state of Michigan, you had to wear a helmet. Now they took that law away, and it was a lot of it because of economic reasons. Some of the lawmakers felt like people weren't traveling into the state of Michigan in the summer on motorcycles because they had to wear a helmet. And that if we allowed people to then travel into Michigan, especially when the weather's nicer, without wearing a helmet, we might get more tourists coming into or traveling through Michigan, which, think about the trickle-down effect then. Hotels are going to make more money. Restaurants are going to make more money. Gas stations are going to make more money. There's a lot that goes into that then. People are going to be spending more money in the state of Michigan, which would benefit our state's businesses and the economy here in Michigan. Okay, this one. Tax money is used to support a free education for all people from ages 5 to 18. So again, people's taxes is used to give a free education for those that want it to people ages 5 through 18. That's basically what we have. What broad social goals would be helped? Okay, equity and growth. Why? The opportunity for everyone to benefit by the education system in this country without barriers. Long term allows for a more educated and skilled workforce. So we've got more people that are being educated. Our workforce is going to be more skilled. We're going to be able to produce more and better products and services, goods and services. So hopefully then our GDP would go up and our living, just overall living, would be better. We'd have better products. We'd have less expensive products for us to purchase. What broad social goal might be hindered? Well, freedom and efficiency here. Okay, could we spend our tax money better on other things? Maybe security or maybe healthcare. Like, is that the best way to spend our money? Plus, as a taxpayer, I'm not told, or I'm being told in this situation, I must pay taxes and here's where it's going. I don't really have a choice in that. Now, I can obviously vote for politicians that might lessen taxes or say they're not going to spend the money on education, maybe on other things that I think should be spent on. Now, obviously, being a teacher, I love it that a lot of our tax money is spent on education. Hey, that helps out my paycheck. But it could hinder freedom and efficiency a little bit. All right. Now let's talk about the sale of alcohol here a little bit. It talks about the rule in law that says you can't buy alcohol until you're 21 years old, and alcohol cannot be sold after 2 a.m. Monday through Saturday, and not until noon on Sundays. We still sort of have those rules around here. Some of them have changed a little bit, but alcohol then says can only be sold by businesses licensed to do so. So what broad social goals might be aided here? Security and efficiency. Why? Laws are meant to keep people safer from and by reducing the chances of alcohol-related accidents. So if we don't have 19, 18, 17, 16, 15-year-olds drinking alcohol, we're probably limiting accidents that are going to happen. When those accidents happen, it puts a stress on our safety and security. It puts a stress on our healthcare system. Like, more money is being spent there. And people are able to work, and healthcare is not burdened by as many people. Okay, what might be hurt by it? Freedom and growth. If you're in the business of alcohol, your argument is, wait, you are limiting who I can sell to. So the amount of people that can buy my product is shrunk because you've got this age limit. Also, if you're going to only tell me that I can sell alcohol certain days of the week, like I can't make as much money as I could because there's a limited time that I'm allowed to do my business, or that there are times of day when people can't buy alcohol. So there's some freedom that's being taken away from. And then we can't have as much economic growth possibly because we can't sell as much stuff. And so we get in a bind here. All right, then the fifth one, various levels of government, national, state, and local, use tax money to build and maintain parks and other recreational facilities. What broad social goal could be aided and why? Growth and equity. Why? By investing in these areas, they become more desirable for visitation. Not only do these areas benefit hotels, restaurants, gas stations, etc. Money spent here is meant to provide access for all groups of people. So again, all groups of people, everybody can go use those parks, right? The Holland State Park at the beach. Our government uses tax money to keep those up, but they're hoping that our economy will actually grow because of it. And we'll make that tax money up, as well as those hotels, people driving in have to stop at our gas stations, they have to eat at our restaurants. So all those area businesses will also benefit, and our economy will then grow. And again, those are open to everybody. Like, so that's equal. Hey, these parks are out here, everybody can use them. What could be hurt? Freedom, efficiency, equity. Okay, is that the best use for efficiency? Is that the best use of our tax dollars? Could we be using it again for something else? In terms of the equity, you could argue against it then. Like, is that a way for everybody to have equal access to these? And you could argue they don't. Freedom, economic freedom. It does cost money still to go to those things, and we're charging people. We're telling them they have to use money. We're also telling them you have to pay taxes, which is telling us what we have to do with our money. And here's what your taxes are being used for. So again, us not getting to choose, one, that we have to pay the taxes, two, where that tax money is going. All right, so those are those 5 broad social goals that we need to be familiar with. If you need to go back and fill out some of the stuff on that note sheet, you've got some time to do that here in the next few minutes. You can also go back at any time and look at this PowerPoint. It's posted there for us. Okay, the next thing we're going to do for just a few more minutes. If you can, let me see here. Let me pull it up. We're going to go through that economic cartoon packet. So if you go back into classwork. There it is. I'm going to show you my email real quick. Scan. We're going to go through this thing here together for just a couple of minutes and then call it good. So I'll give you a minute to pop that open. Okay, the cartoon here was Calvin and Hobbes, and let's go through it here. The dad says, Calvin, I'd like you to pick up all the sticks and fallen branches in the yard so I can mow it. Response is, will you pay me for it? Gosh, that sounds familiar to what happens in my house. Well, okay, I'll pay you $1. $1? I won't do it for less than 25. Then the dad responds with, in a minute, you'll do it for nothing just because I told you to. Then Calvin comes back in. I'll take the $1. And the dad says, smart kid. So the first question there. What is Calvin doing when his father asks him to do a chore? A. He's sitting on a bed, and you could add in there, like he's not doing anything or anything really productive. And when his dad asks him to do a chore, he starts to negotiate, basically. And then B, what other activity might Calvin have been planning to engage in? playing with that toy truck there on the bed or watching TV. I don't know. Something else. 2, what are Calvin's trade-offs for choosing to do the chore? Well, his trade-offs are whatever he's giving up. And in this case, we said it's basically what you put for B. Like I put playing with the toy truck that's sitting on the bed there. So that's his trade-off. What will Calvin get if he does the chore? He'll get $1. Number 3, how do the trade-offs for choosing to do the chore change after Calvin demands $25 for it? Well, the father says he'll do the chore either way. So the trade-off then becomes either you do the chore for the $1 or you do the chore for nothing. His trade-off is the $1 now almost. Then for number 4, how else might Calvin's father have responded to the demand for $25? Oh, those lights. He could have agreed to the $25 charge. He didn't. He went the opposite way. He said, well, I offered you $1. Now I'm going to offer you nothing. And then B, how would this have changed the outcome? Calvin may have asked for even more than $25. So he's negotiating a little bit. That's why Calvin's dad probably was smart enough not to give in, figuring, hey, if I give in to this demand, Calvin's going to keep asking for more. I just got to put my foot down. Then number 5, why do you think Calvin's father says Calvin is a smart kid? Well, because Calvin took the best deal that was being offered to him. He understood negotiations wouldn't benefit him. His negotiations were going to go to getting $1 to doing it for free. Uh-oh. I'm going to make this work. Don't worry. There we go. Okay, the next page down. It's talking about scarcity, the basic economic problem. Explain the difference between a want and a need. We've talked about this stuff a lot. Needs are necessary for survival. Wants are goods and services that aren't needed for survival, but we would like to have those things. That's your Christmas list, your wants. Number 2, what is the difference between a good and a service? A good is a tangible object, like something we can touch. A service is an action. 3, what determines the monetary value of a good or service? Why are some necessities less expensive than unnecessary items? The monetary value, when we say monetary value, like how much in money is something worth? The monetary value of a good or service is determined by the supply and demand of that good or service. If people really want something, the monetary value is going to go up. Or if there's not much of it, like it's scarce, it's going to go up. Some necessities are less expensive than unnecessary items because of scarcity. Number 5, is anything actually free? Why or why not? No, everything has a real cost. Remember, everything that goes into producing something is part of that cost. And time can be a cost. So everything has a real cost. All right, the third page down. Because resources are scarce, all societies must decide what goods to produce, how to produce them, and for whom they are produced. So number 1, who makes the decisions about what goods to produce in North Korea? Who decides in the United States? How can the decisions affect the people living in those societies? Well, if you didn't know about those types of governments, then you had to look this up a little bit. We talked about both these types of governments back in civics. So in North Korea, the government makes the decisions about what to produce. Like they're on top of it. It's a dictatorship. They tell people, here's what you're going to produce. Here's your job. There's very little economic freedom. In the United States, the government individuals make the decisions about what to produce. Yes, our government has some rules and regulations, and they regulate some of the stuff as to what's made. But a lot of individuals, us, we also have the ability to choose those things. Number 2, what factors go into making a decision about how to produce goods? Explain why Japanese producers rely heavily on robots. Well, what are the reasons available? What are the resources available in terms of land? That's one of the things they have to consider. Then, what are the human resources available? And what are the capabilities of that labor? Like that's what the Japanese have to, and well, every group of people has to think that, but they don't have as many people as the United States does necessarily. So they might need other ways to produce products, which might be the reason that they rely heavily on robots. And maybe it's because, hey, they have a highly educated population. So they're good with the technology stuff. So why wouldn't you start to make robots and stuff to produce better goods and services? Number 3, why must societies decide for whom to produce? Well, producers want to understand their target audience. You don't want to just produce a bunch of stuff if people aren't going to want it. So if you've got a population that's really, really young and you have a ton of infants, well, that's who you're producing for probably. So maybe baby food, diapers, that kind of stuff. Like you've got to know your audience so they can cater to their wants and needs. So then you can be more efficient with what you're making. Economics uses description, analysis, explanation, and prediction to study people's efforts to satisfy wants and needs through management of scarce resources. Economics is also a social science because it studies people's behaviors and they deal with scarcity. So, number 1, what is the gross domestic product and how is it the description of economic activity? We just said in the notes, the gross domestic product, the GDP, that measures the monetary value of the final goods and services produced in a country in a given period of time. And usually that period's 1 year. And that's how we can kind of measure how an economy is doing. And we can also see economic growth every year or lack of growth. If next year our GDP is higher, it means our economy grew. If it's lower, it means our economy shrank. Okay, so summarize the main ideas of this lesson by answering the questions below. How can we manage the problem of scarcity? Well, we can manage scarcity by living without certain wants and needs, or creating more resources by planting trees or doing whatever, drill for more oil, or lastly, by making better use of our resources. We talked about in our scarcity notes, like how can we manage scarcity? How can we take care of it? Well, either do without it, create more, or like just be more efficient with what we have. All right, then lastly here, not lastly, there are 2 pages left. Put you into some scenarios here and asked you about certain things that we've talked about. So investigation 1 or situation number 1. The problem up top is frontier land is a developing country in a desert region in the southern hemisphere. Its economy is based primarily on a tiny desert flower that has strong medicinal purpose or properties, so able to be used to make medicines. Frontier land also produces the juice of a certain species of cactus that grows abundantly only after heavy rains that occur once or twice annually or every year. Use what you've learned in this chapter to answer the questions that follow. Okay, so investigation number 1. Obtaining the medicinal flowers is rather difficult. Each flower harvester learns specific techniques from an experienced harvester. These techniques include finding the plants, removing the flowers without damaging the plants, and storing the flowers to best preserve their valuable medicinal properties. Flower harvesters carry special pouches that protect each flower and retain the moisture in its delicate petals. Most of the medicinal flower harvest is traded with neighboring countries for food and other basic goods that frontier land does not have adequate means to produce. Flower harvesters are paid very well. Identify the factors of production for medicinal flowers. Land, you need the flowers. Okay, you got to have the space. You got to have the right dirt. You got to have the specific type of land. Labor, you got to have the harvesters. Okay, it's mentioned in there, we got to have those people able to do this. And then capital, physical. Okay, so that's like all sorts of stuff. You got to have the planters, you got to have like machines probably that go through it. You got to have the stuff that goes into pulling the stuff out of the plants to get out the medicinal stuff that we need. And then human resources, again, we got to have those human capital in terms of harvesters and workers. Okay, then investigation 2. After a heavy rainfall, the special cactus can be tapped for its juice for a period of about a week. The juice is highly prized for its taste, texture, and nutritional value. Some of the juice is traded with neighboring countries. During a period of juice production, the help of some of the flower harvesters is needed in order to tap as much of the available juice as possible. While juice production work does not pay well, juice for consumption is made available primarily to those who assist with tapping it. So, number 1, what is the opportunity cost to a flower harvester of participating in the tapping of juice from the cactus? Well, the medicinal flowers aren't being collected. They get to have the juice, but they've given up the collection of the medicinal flowers. They're harvesting. 2, what might a flower harvester consider in making a decision at the margin about participating in juice tapping? Well, which task is going to bring the most benefit to them? And that can be a personal decision. That's what they've got to kind of do, the cost benefit analysis. If I do this, how am I going to benefit? But what am I giving up? What's going to be the cost for me? Then lastly, the production of juice depends entirely on the occurrence of a very occasional heavy rainfall. If modern irrigation methods could supply sufficient water to the frontierland desert, the juice-producing cactus could be grown throughout much of the year. However, the plant that produces the medicinal flowers grow best under very dry conditions. So they don't necessarily want to bring in all that irrigation because then those cacti don't grow as well, or that medicinal flower doesn't grow as well. So number 1, how would such a new technology affect production possibilities in frontierland? It would help out probably growing some of those things. Although it does say the plant that produces the medicinal flower best grows under very dry conditions. So if we bring in all this irrigation, those might not grow as well. Number 2, what would be the likely trade-off for producing more juice? Explain your answer in terms of factors of production. Well, the benefit, more capital, more ways to produce. Opportunity cost would be the land. Flowers can grow in dry conditions. All right, then lastly, the local video store displayed the graph below to help consumers decide which new movies they might want to rent. Review the Skills for Life feature on page 12, which we didn't have. That's okay. Then study the graph. Answer the questions that follow to help you decide which movie or movies you think would most likely appeal to you. So the first one, it just helps you out reading the graph. What symbol is represented by movie B? That's that little longer middle line, as it says up here in the key. Number 2, how many age groups does the graph show? Well, we look down here, number of age groups. We've got 0 to 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So 12 different age groups are being analyzed. 3, which movie was most popular with viewers age 5 and under? So simply we go to 5 and under, whoop, we go all the way up here. Movie C was obviously more popular. It had 35,000 viewers as opposed to about 2, 3, 4,000 viewers from the other age groups. So movie C. Number 4, A. What is the largest number of viewers shown on the graph for any particular movie? Well, the highest point here is 48,000, and that was movie A. B. Which movie attracted these numbers? Movie A. 5A. At what age group does the viewership for movie C begin to increase after a steep decline? Movie C. So we get up here, steep decline. It starts to go back up at age group 21 through 25. You see that steep decrease right here. How might you explain this increase? Well, what type of movie was it, maybe? Is it a children's movie? We see a high viewership here. And then would a bunch of 11 to 20-year-olds go see it, or 21-year-olds go see a children's movie? Well, here's the age where people start having kids again. So maybe they start going with their kids. 6A, which movie do you think would you choose? That's a personal decision. And what information not shown on the graph might you want before you decide? That's on you as well. I'll read through those when you turn those in. Okay, so go ahead and turn those in. I'm telling you right now, turn them in so that they are in. I've got the ability to grade them then. And then we should be all set. Hey, well, thanks for tuning in. I'll see you back in class the next day you have class.